Greetings everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Akshay Jakadar, and I would like to welcome you all to the webinar, EOP Assist Features, Functions, and Recent Enhancements. This webinar is hosted by the Office of Safe and Healthy Students, Readiness and Emergency Management for Schools Technical Assistance Center. Today, we will provide an overview of the features and functions of EOP Assist, the REMS TA Center's Emergency Operations Plan, or EOP, development tool. After providing an overview of this tool, we will discuss recent updates and enhancements to the tool. This webinar will also include a discussion of EOP Assist resources. At this time, I am very pleased to introduce our presenters for today, Ms. Madeline Sullivan of the Office of Safe and Healthy Students, and Ms. Samantha Spinney of the REMS TA Center. Since its inception, Ms. Sullivan and Ms. Spinney have worked collaboratively to lead the development of EOP Assist, working with subject matter experts in school safety and emergency preparedness, as well as federal partners, to inform the development of the application. Most recently, they have led the development of updates to EOP Assist and the EOP Assist Interactive Workbook, along with technical assistance and training efforts related to the software application. Before we get started, let's review some quick tips to help ensure you're able to hear the audio, ask questions, download the files, and request technical assistance during today's event. To ask a question, use the Q&A tool on the lower right side of your screen to send your message to the facilitator. Questions will be answered in the order in which they appear and as time permits. To download a copy of the presentation slides, use the Downloads box in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Select the available file and click the Download File button. And as a reminder, there is no dial-in for this webinar. Audio is available via the link provided. If you are experiencing difficulty hearing the audio stream, please turn up your computer speaker volume at this time. Finally, if you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please request technical assistance using the Q&A tool. The webinar moderator will respond to individual inquiries as they are received. And now that we have that covered, let's take a look at our agenda for today. During this one-hour webinar, Ms. Sullivan will begin by providing a brief introduction of the federal guidance. Then, Ms. Spinney will provide an overview of the two EOP Assist products, which will lead into a more in-depth presentation of both the EOP Assist downloadable software and the EOP Assist interactive workbook. Ms. Spinney will conclude the presentation with the discussion of EOP Assist resources, and then both presenters will be available for a dedicated Q&A session. And now, with that being said, I would like to turn the presentation over to Ms. Madeline Sullivan. Madeline?
Thank you, Akshay. Before we begin discussing the EOP Assist tool, we want to provide you with some information. on developments from the federal level on school emergency management that will help to inform our discussion of EOP Assist. Following the tragedy of Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, President Obama put forth his Now is the Time plan, which sets forth 4 major objectives to protect our children and their communities by reducing gun violence. One of these objectives was to make schools safer. To do so, the President's plan called for every school to have a comprehensive emergency operations plan, an EOP. And to support this effort, he tasked the U.S. Department of Education, the Department of Justice, its Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Department of Homeland Security, its Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the Health and Human Services Agency to develop guidelines on how to develop high-quality emergency management plans for schools, houses of worship, and institutions of higher education. You can view the full Now is the Time plan on the White House's website at the URL listed in the presentation. Together, the 6 agencies drew upon their respective areas of expertise, supporting districts and schools, and responding to emergencies, and then together created customized recommendations for developing high-quality, all-hazards emergency operations plans for schools, institutions of higher ed, and houses of worship. In June 2013, the administration released these recommendations with 3 guides, and now each agency is sharing the same guidance with their respective state and local entities. Not only is this the first ever collaboration amongst federal agencies in this manner, but it's also the first time schools and their community partners are receiving the same guidance. The EOP Assist software brings to life these recommendations that are found in the Guide to Developing High-Quality School Emergency Operations Plans. You can access these guides and related resources via the RENS TA Center website. In response to the Presidential Directive, PPD 8, National Preparedness, we now frame schools' efforts to address school safety, security, and emergency management around preparedness. And districts and schools can increase their preparedness by addressing its 5 mission areas: prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. It represents the evolution in our collective understanding of national preparedness, and it's based on the lessons learned from terrorist attacks, hurricanes, school incidents, and other experiences. These mission areas are equally important and are all interrelated. Together, by building capacity in the mission areas, we're increasing preparedness. Districts and school planners can use the paradigm of before, during, and after when taking into consideration their prioritized hazards and threats to develop customized and comprehensive EOPs. As you use the EOP Assist to develop your goals, objectives, and courses of action to protect your school community and its staff, its students, and its visitors, you'll be using this approach. When the planning team is using EOP Assist, it's important to remember the following principles. 1. Planning is supported by must be supported by leadership. And 2, effective planning is built around comprehensive, ongoing assessment of the school community to customize plans to the building level, taking into consideration the school's unique circumstances and resources. 3, a comprehensive school emergency planning process must take into account a wide range of possible threats and hazards that may impact the school and address the safety needs before, during, and after an incident. 4, planning provides for the access and functional needs of the whole school community, including its students, staff, and visitors of all ages, persons with disabilities and special needs, people with limited English proficiency, and those from religiously, racially, and ethnically diverse backgrounds. 5, school EOPs must account for incidents that may occur during and outside the school day, as well as on and off campus. That includes on the school bus, at sporting events, and on field trips. 6, creating and revising a model school EOP is done by following a collaborative process. And EOP Assist makes it easy to collaborate with numerous officials within the district and school system, as well as with community partners such as fire officials, law enforcement, emergency managers, and public and mental health practitioners. EOP Assist will walk users through the 6-step planning process. In brief, Step 1 is to form a collaborative planning team. Step 2 is to understand the situation. Step 3 is determine goals and objectives. Step 4, plan development, where we identify courses of action. Step 5, plan preparation, review, and approval. And concluding with Step 6, plan implementation and maintenance. And then this 6-step process can be used repeatedly to continually review and enhance the EOP. At every step using EOP Assist, the user will be provided with opportunities to access guidance, resources, and examples as they wish. And now, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Samantha, who will provide information on the outcome of the 6-step planning process, a school EOP, as well as how EOP Assist can help practitioners to develop school EOPs. Samantha?
Thank you, Madeline. The outcome of the 6-step planning process is a school EOP. While the guidance does not prescribe an overall school EOP format, it offers one possible format for consideration, a traditional format that includes a basic plan section, a functional annexes section, and a threat and hazard specific annexes section. This plan format can be customized to meet individual schools' needs. The basic plan section of the school EOP provides an overview of the school's approach to emergency operations. The functional annexes section details the goals, objectives, and courses of action of functions such as evacuation, communications, recovery, functions that apply across multiple threats or hazards. Functional annexes set forth how the school manages a function before, during, and after an emergency. The threat and hazard specific annexes section specifies the goals, objectives, and courses of action that a school will follow to address a particular type of threat or hazard, such as a hurricane or an active shooter. Threat and hazard specific annexes, like functional annexes, set forth how the school manages a threat or hazard before, during, and after an emergency. Let's now turn our attention to EOP Assist and how it helps practitioners to efficiently and effectively develop a school EOP with these three basic sections using the processes recommended in the federal guidance. Before we get into the details of EOP Assist, I'd like to first provide an introduction of the two EOP Assist products that the TA Center has available for school emergency management planners. The first tool is the EOP Assist software application. The Office of Safe and Healthy Students and the REMS TA Center worked to develop the EOP Assist software application to support schools and districts in their efforts to create, revise, and update comprehensive all-hazard school EOPs. This tool was developed over the course of a year in collaboration with a diverse group of school and district emergency management subject matter experts from across the United States, as well as input from federal partners, and is based on the latest federal guidance on school emergency operations planning. The REMS TA Center made EOP Assist available to the public in January of 2015. The REMS TA Center's primary objective in creating EOP Assist was to develop a school EOP generator that closely aligned with the guide for developing high-quality school emergency operations plans. In fulfillment of this objective, this application leads users through the six-step planning process recommended in the school guide, provides resources to support users through the process to teach users the guidance, and generates an EOP based on the sample EOP format included in the school guide. In contrast to some other plan generator tools, EOP Assist emphasizes the process for creating an EOP, not just the final product of an EOP. That said, EOP Assist will ultimately generate a plan exported to Word once users complete the six-step planning process. In other words, the purpose of this tool is twofold. First, to instruct users on the recommended process for developing a school EOP, and second, to help users create a high-quality school EOP. Recently, the REMS TA Center has been working to update the EOP Assist software. The software update, referred to as EOP Assist 2.0, includes the same essential functions of the application that was released last January, however, also includes a number of enhancements, which will be discussed in further detail in the subsequent slides. And just to let you know, this update is now available for download from the REMS TA Center website. In addition, the Office of Safe and Healthy Students and the REMS TA Center have also been working to develop a new EOP Assist product, the EOP Assist Interactive Workbook. The Interactive Workbook is an offline version of the EOP Assist software application that includes the potential for state-level and district-level customization regarding EOP requirements. School and district users only need a PDF viewer and Microsoft Word to create their EOPs using the workbook. This new tool will benefit any users who prefer or require an offline version of the application. Both the EOP Assist software and the interactive workbook will be discussed in more detail in the following slides. First, let's focus on the software. One important feature of EOP Assist is that it is a downloadable tool that is hosted by state agencies, school districts, or schools, not by the REMS TA Center or the Department of Education. After downloading EOP Assist from the REMS TA Center website, IT personnel install EOP Assist software locally on their respective institution's local server and then make the tool available to users as a web-accessible application. The fact that EOP Assist is installed locally means that the institution hosting the application is responsible for storing the EOP data input into the software, and that no one outside the institution, including the REMS TA Center and the Department of Education, will have access to their EOP data. This is important because it ensures that confidential information in the plan will remain secure. On the flip side, the responsibility for securing confidential information resides with the school, district, or state that is hosting the application. And so similar security precautions should be used with this software as with any other state, district, or school software that houses confidential information. EOP Assist consists of the following features: the planning process, which prompts users through the recommended 6-step process to develop a school EOP. My EOP, which allows users to export their plan content into a formatted Word document. The Resource Toolkit, which is a sliding resource sidebar that provides supplementary guidance, resources, and examples to users as they move through the tool. The Slide Out menu, which is a sliding menu sidebar that allows users to quickly navigate throughout the tool. The Calendar, which allows users to schedule plan reviews and meetings, and the Users feature, which controls the access for different levels of users, whether they reside in a school district, school, or a state agency. The REMS TA Center recently created a series of video tutorials on how to use EOP Assist, which are available for viewing on the REMS TA Center's website. The first 2 video tutorials showcase the features and functions of EOP Assist, as well as how practitioners may use EOP Assist to develop their school EOPs. Let's take a look at these videos to learn more about EOP Assist. Max, would you please play the first video, the features and functions of EOP Assist?
Welcome to an overview of the features and functions of EOP Assist. This is the first of 3 tutorials on how to use the REMS TA Center's software application for developing high-quality school emergency operations plans, or EOPs. In this tutorial, we will review the layout of the application, as well as how to log in, log out, and change your password. This tutorial will be provided from the perspective of a school-level user. Please see the 3rd tutorial, Using EOP Assist as an Administrator, for information on how to use this application as a school or district administrator. Before you can access EOP Assist, IT personnel at your district or school must first download and install the software on a local server at your district or school, and then provide you with a URL and login credentials to access the application. This URL should bring you to the login screen that you see before you. Each time you open the URL to view EOP Assist, you will be presented with this login screen. At that time, you must enter your user ID and password. If you do not have login credentials, need to reset your password, or have any other trouble accessing EOP Assist, please contact your school or district administrator. The REMS TA Center does not have the ability to reset your password since this software application is hosted locally by your school or district. To log in, fill the required fields and select the Sign In button. After signing in, you will arrive at the home page of the application. EOP Assist is organized into 5 or 6 sections depending on your user role. Each section is displayed at the top of your screen in a dark gray ribbon. This is the navigation bar, which allows you to navigate through the various features of EOP Assist, including Home, My Account, Calendar, Planning Process, and My EOP. If you're logging in as a school or district administrator, you will also see the Users section. Right now, we are in the Home or Getting Started section of EOP Assist, This section provides useful background information on how to use EOP Assist. Next, let's take a look at My Account, which allows you to change your user ID or password. This can be done by clicking the links in green. Next, let's look at the Calendar feature. School emergency management planning is an ongoing effort that is reinforced through regularly scheduled planning meetings. The Calendar feature will help you schedule meetings and create reminders and notifications to support the team's planning process. Now let's turn our attention to the planning process. This is where the bulk of content in EOP Assist is located. It's also where you enter and save data that will populate your school EOP. The planning process is divided into 6 steps, one for each step in the federally recommended 6-step process for developing a school EOP. Notice the Back and Next buttons on the lower right corner of the page. These buttons allow you to navigate through the planning process, page by page, and will allow you to view all pages within each step of the planning process. As you can see, selecting Next will take us to the second page in Step 1, Identify a Core Planning Team. Now take a look at the different tabs across the top of the screen. Each of these tabs is dedicated to a different step in the planning process. Selecting a tab will allow you to navigate between steps in the planning process. You may navigate throughout the planning process in any order, and you can visit and revisit tabs and pages in any order at any time while EOP Assist saves your work. A more efficient way to navigate between different steps and pages within the planning process is to use the Slide Out menu. This is accessible via the menu icon on the top left side of the screen. This feature allows users to quickly navigate directly to any page within the Home, Getting Started, and Planning Process sections. Please note the File Cabinet icon on the upper right corner of the screen. Selecting the icon will open the Resource Toolkit, a feature within the planning process that contains page-specific guidance, resources, and examples to help users develop their school EOPs. Next, let's look at EOP Assist's My EOP feature, which allows you to export your school EOP. Selecting the blue Download button will allow you to download, view, save, edit, and review your plan as a Microsoft Word document. The last feature that we'll showcase in this tutorial is the Logout button. It can be found on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Please note that EOP Assist also has an automatic logout after 5 minutes of inactivity. To exit the application, click Logout and then click Logout again. You will then return to the Login screen that you saw at the beginning of this tutorial. This concludes our brief tutorial on the layout of EOP Assist, as well as how to log in, log out, and change your password. Thank you for your attention during this tutorial. Please refer to the second tutorial, Creating a School EOP with EOP Assist, a focus on the planning process, or the third tutorial, Using EOP Assist as an Administrator to enhance your experience in and familiarity with using EOP Assist to develop and revise your school EOP. Additionally, please do not hesitate to contact the REMS TA Center for any questions regarding the features and functions of EOP Assist, or for guidance on how to use this application to develop a school EOP.
Okay, thank you, Max. If you wouldn't mind, would you play the second video now, which is Creating a School EOP with EOP Assist, a focus on the planning process. And just for everyone that is viewing these, if you had any technical difficulties viewing these videos, they will be posted on the REMS TA Center's website. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the second video.
Welcome to Creating a School EOP with EOP Assist, a focus on the planning process. This is the second of 3 tutorials on how to use the REMS TA Center software application for developing high-quality school emergency operations plans, or EOPs. In this tutorial, we will review how to generate a school EOP using EOP Assist, with a special focus on the planning process and My EOP features of the application. This tutorial will be provided from the perspective of a school-level user. Please see the third tutorial, Using EOP Assist as an Administrator, for information on how to use this application as an administrator. The planning process section of EOP Assist is where you and members of your planning team enter and save data to populate your school EOP. This feature is a mix of guidance for developing your school EOP as well as forms for entering your team's plan data. The planning process is organized into the following 6 steps. 1. Form a collaborative planning team. 2. Understand the situation. 3. Determine goals and objectives. 4. Plan development, identifying courses of action. 5. Plan preparation, review, and approval. 6. Plan implementation and maintenance. Step 1 is where you establish your planning team for developing your school EOP. Steps 2 through 4 involve collecting and recording information that will be included in your school EOP. Step 5 is where you actually write out the plan based on the work completed in previous steps. Step 6 is where you and your team put your plan to use. The 6-step planning process is intended to be continuous and cyclical. After your team completes Step 6, you should begin the process again or use EOP Assist to address additional hazards and threats or to revise certain sections of your plan. EOP Assist carries data that you input from one step to the next in order to efficiently develop your school EOP. Specifically, data that you input into Step 2 is forwarded to Step 3. Data that you input into Step 3 is forwarded to Step 4. And data that you input into Step 4 is forwarded into Step 5. Let's look at an example of how this works. In Step 2, you are prompted to input different threats and hazards that your school and surrounding community may face. Let's use the example of a fire. Now, in Step 3, we see that fire is included among a list of options of threats and hazards to be addressed in the plan. Let's select Fire. Moving forward, now it's time to develop goals and objectives for selected threats and hazards. Let's select Add to enter goals and objectives for addressing a fire at school. For our first goal, I will add Prevent a fire from occurring on school grounds. Skipping ahead, you can see that I have now entered in all goals and objectives for the hazard of fire. I will now select Save to save these goals and objectives for fire in the tool. Moving ahead to Step 4, it's now time to write out courses of action based on the goals and objectives written in Step 3 for how to address a threat or hazard before, during, and after it occurs. After selecting Fire, you can see that the goals and objectives we entered in Step 3 were carried forward and are now displayed in Step 4. Using these goals and objectives as guidance, it is now time to write courses of action for addressing a fire. As you can see, I have just written out our courses of action for fire into the designated field. I will now select Save to record these courses of action into the tool. Moving forward to Step 5, which is where the draft EOP is prepared, we will look at the Threat and Hazard-Specific Annexes section. This is where you will see the goals, objectives, and courses of action that you and your planning team determined for threats and hazards in Steps 3 and 4. At this time, you will also be able to edit this information before it appears directly in your school EOP as a cohesive annex. Right now, we can see the goals, objectives, and courses of action that we developed for fire. All of this information will be saved in our Fire annex in our school EOP. I don't wish to make any changes here, so I will just select Update. Now I would like to see the work we just completed for the Fire annex in our school EOP. Selecting My EOP will take you to a page where you can download your plan as a Microsoft Word document. When you open your downloaded plan, you can quickly navigate to any section or annex through the table of contents that is generated in the plan. Let's navigate to our Fire annex to make sure that the content that we just entered is there. And here it is. If we want to edit any material in this annex, we may do that as we would edit any other Microsoft Word document. For example, if we want to insert a floor plan of the school in the Fire Annex, we can select the Insert tab and then select Pictures and then select the floor plan image file from the folder. Please note that any updates that we make into the downloaded plan must be saved. This concludes our brief tutorial on how you and your planning team can use EOP Assist to develop, edit, and revise the content of your school EOP, as well as how you may access the most up-to-date version of your plan as an exported Word document. Thank you for your attention during this tutorial. Please refer to the first tutorial, an overview of the features and functions of EOP Assist, or the third tutorial, using EOP Assist as an administrator, to enhance your experience in and familiarity with using EOP Assist to develop and revise your school EOP. Additionally, please do not hesitate to contact the REMS TA Center for any questions regarding the features and functions of EOP Assist, or for guidance on how to use this application to develop a school EOP.
All right. Thank you so much for playing those videos, Max. We'll continue on with the PowerPoint. So now that we have learned a little bit about how EOP Assist operates, let's discuss the latest enhancements to the software. As mentioned, EOP Assist was recently updated and is now available on the REMS TA Center website. The new version of the software, EOP Assist 2.0, includes the same essential functions of the application that was released last January, however also includes a number of enhancements. One such enhancement is that state-level agencies are now able to host EOP Assist for schools and districts throughout the state, which will enable schools and districts to develop their EOPs within one state-level account of the application. This will greatly reduce IT requirements at the school and district level for hosting this application and will keep all EOPs stored in one centralized location at the state level. We have also updated the forms for inputting EOP data. Specifically, those forms now include enhanced formatting controls, including the ability to insert files and add bullet points, special characters, and other formatting features into the text. The software also includes enhanced district-level and state-level administrative and management functions. This update will allow schools to easily share their EOPs with their district and state as needed, and for district-level and state-level administrators to follow the progress of school EOP development as necessary. In addition, district-level administrators are now able to easily view the various EOP planning events created by different schools using the calendar feature in EOP Assist. Also important, the software is now compatible with multiple database systems, which will ensure easier installation for schools, districts, and states across the country. The next few slides will show screenshots of some of the enhanced features in EOP Assist 2.0. The screenshot before you demonstrates the updated calendar feature. With EOP Assist 2.0, district administrators can now view the various calendar events entered by schools throughout the district. This next screenshot shows the updated users section in EOP Assist 2.0. Whereas the previous version of EOP Assist had 3 different user roles, EOP Assist 2.0 has the following 5 user roles: super administrators, who are typically IT personnel and who set up a state, district, or school's account of EOP Assist; state administrators, who manage districts and independent schools' use of EOP Assist for the state; district administrators, who manage a school's district's use of the software and may contribute to the planning process for developing a school EOP, school administrators who manage a school's use of the software and contribute to the planning process for developing a school EOP, and school users whose main role is to contribute to the planning process for developing a school EOP. All administrators have access to the User Management tab in the Users section of EOP Assist 2.0, which is depicted on this slide. The User Management tab allows administrators to create new users, change information about users, search for users, and reset passwords for users. This screenshot shows the updated School Management tab in the Users section of EOP Assist 2.0. Super administrators, state administrators, and district administrators all have access to this tab, which allows these administrators to create new schools, modify information about existing schools, and view the EOPs created with their account of the application as applicable. Please note that district administrators are always able to view the school EOPs made by schools in their district. State administrators are only able to view school EOPs made through their state's account of EOP Assist if schools and districts have enabled the EOP sharing function, which I will discuss momentarily. In any case, the School Management tab is where these EOPs are made available for easy viewing. The screenshot before you shows the State Access tab in the Users section, which is a feature available to state administrators, district administrators, and school administrators. This feature allows state administrators hosting EOP Assist to select whether they want to view school EOPs developed with the state's account of the application, or whether they would prefer to disable this sharing feature. Similarly, school and district administrators are also able to select whether they want to share their school EOPs with the state or not. Only in cases where both the state administrator and the school or district administrators both choose to enable EOP sharing will the EOPs actually be shared. As a reminder, those EOPs are visible in the School Management tab, which we just viewed. In order for states, districts, or schools to use EOP Assist 2.0, they must first register for the tool on the REMS website. After an interested party is registered, he or she will receive an automatically generated email with details on how to download the application files, installation manual, and the user manual. After the interested party has downloaded the software files, IT personnel at the institution hosting the application will install the software application onto the institution's server using the directions provided in the installation manual. After the application is installed on the server, IT personnel will load the application to the institution's website to make the application web accessible for school emergency planners across the state, district, or school as applicable. In addition, IT personnel will create a state, district, or school administrator who will be responsible for creating additional application users and administrators and entering information about any districts and schools using this particular account of the application. In order to access EOP Assist, all users will go to the link provided on their district or school's website and will log in with their individual user ID and password that was created for them. Please note that the first version of EOP Assist required MySQL as its database system. However, EOP Assist 2.0 is now compatible with both MySQL and Microsoft's SQL Server, which greatly increases the software's accessibility for institutions with a range of technical configurations. At this point, we're going to transition into a discussion of the second EOP Assist tool, the EOP Assist Interactive Workbook. As discussed previously, the EOP Assist Interactive Workbook is an offline version of EOP Assist. The Interactive Workbook consists of two parts. Part A, Instructions, which walks users through the 6-step planning process, prompts users to enter plan information, which they enter into Part B, and includes all guidance, resources, and examples from the software's Resource Toolkit, which are included as supplementary resources. The second part is Part B, Worksheets. In Part B, users fill out worksheets and ultimately convert their worksheets into a comprehensive EOP according to the instructions in Part A. The best way to think about how these two parts work together is to think about doing your taxes on paper with an instruction booklet and a tax worksheet. This slide shows examples of the type of material in Part A, the instructions. Overall, Part A includes 3 types of material: guidance, or content from the federal guidance regarding the 6-step planning process, action steps, or specific instructions about how to fill out Part B, and supplemental resources, which are not shown on this page but include the same resources for guidance, additional resources, and examples from the Resource Toolkit feature in the EOP Assist software. This slide shows examples of the type of material in Part B, the worksheets. As you can see, the worksheets are numbered and labeled so that users can be sure to track which instructions from Part A apply to worksheets in Part B. The worksheets clearly indicate the type of information that needs to be filled in. Some worksheets, such as one included on this screen, include checkboxes. Please note that these checkboxes are clickable. Please also note that the order of worksheets is not aligned with the instructions included in Part A. Instead, since worksheets ultimately become the school EOP, the order of the worksheets is based on the sample EOP format in the school guide that includes the basic plan section, the functional annexes section, and the threat and hazard specific annexes section. An important component of the EOP Assist interactive workbook is the conversion of the worksheets in Part B to the school EOP. Part A details instructions for this process, which includes how to convert the tables included some of the worksheets to text, if needed, how to delete worksheets devoted to pre-work, not the final EOP, and how to delete references to the word worksheet. By following the steps included in Part A, users will maintain the formatted headings in Part B. While not necessary to do so, this does allow users to create and update the table of contents of their school EOP quite easily. The EOP Assist interactive workbook consists of a PDF of the instructions booklet and a set of worksheets in Microsoft Word. Users only need a PDF viewer and Microsoft Word to create their EOPs using the workbook. An intermediate to advanced understanding of Microsoft Word will enable practitioners to use this tool with greater ease. This new tool will benefit any users who prefer or require an offline version of EOP Assist. Please note that while an internet connection is not necessary for use, it is helpful. Part A of the interactive workbook includes several supplementary resources which support users throughout the 6-step planning process and which are accessible via hyperlinks. Another benefit of the EOP Assist interactive workbook is that it provides opportunities for state agencies and school districts to customize the tool according to state and local requirements for EOPs. Upon request, the REMS TA Center is happy to provide a Microsoft Word version of Part A, the instructions, which are normally offered as a PDF, to be customized by the state level or district level officials. State and district officials can customize the guidance, action steps, and/or supplementary resources section of Part A as needed. Additionally, state-level officials may also pre-populate Part B of the workbook, the worksheets, with any EOP data that is required by the state. For example, if your state requires that school EOPs address hurricanes and fires, you can pre-populate the particular worksheet addressing threats and hazards with both hurricanes and fires, and save that as the state's customized version of the tool. After customizing the interactive workbook, state officials or district officials may disseminate their customized versions of the interactive workbook to their stakeholders via their website. The REMS TA Center provides numerous resources to support practitioners' use of EOP Assist. All EOP Assist resources are available on the EOP Assist webpage of the TA Center's website, located at rems.ed.gov/eopassist.aspx. There are three main types of resources available on this webpage. One, how-to resources, which include the EOP Assist 2.0 installation manual, the EOP Assist 2.0 user manual, the EOP Assist video tutorials. There's 3 video tutorials in total. You all saw 2 in this presentation, as well as the REMS TA Center Help Desk. You may contact the Help Desk with any questions about EOP Assist or any other school emergency management topic via our dedicated electronic mail address, info@remstacenter.org, or our toll-free telephone number, which is 1-855-781-REMS. The next type of resources is information dissemination resources, which includes the EOP Assist product description, which is essentially a flyer that summarizes the tool and which is available for you to distribute with your stakeholders. Please note that this product description is currently being updated to include the enhancements in EOP Assist 2.0. In addition, the EOP Assist PowerPoint presentation is also available for you to support information dissemination of this tool to your stakeholders. The third type of resource available on the EOP Assist webpage is a networking resource. Currently, we have an EOP Assist discussion forum established on the REMS Community of Practice. In case you are not yet familiar with the Community of Practice, or the COP as we call it, we wanted to tell you a bit more about this resource, as it not only helps to support your use of EOP Assist, but also provides networking opportunities with other school and higher ed emergency management practitioners across a range of topics. The COP is a powerful resource for schools, school districts, institutions of higher education, and their community partners to collaborate on special projects, share news and resources, discuss trends and ideas, and learn from the experiences of others in the field. It offers a variety of forums to exchange ideas and resources with practitioners who do similar work. We invite you to visit rems.ed.gov/COP/default.aspx to join. If you have any questions or issues accessing the COP, please contact the REMS TA Center at info@remstacenter.org. At this point, I'd like to turn this presentation back to Akshay to facilitate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Samantha, for that presentation on EOP Assist. We will now take a few questions from our participants. Please remember to pose your questions using the Q&A tool on the right side of your computer screen. We received our first question. Samantha, you mentioned that there were multiple roles, including admin and super admin. Can you tell us the difference between those?
Sure. Super administrators are essentially the IT personnel who install the application. They're not going to, for the most part, they will not actually be using the application to develop a plan. State administrators, on the other hand, are the emergency management personnel at a state agency who will basically manage practitioners' use of the application throughout the state. So they will do everything from adding school districts and independent schools who wish to use this application into the application itself, and then creating other administrators and users for each district and school.
Thank you. Can you tell us more about the development process? Was EOP Assist beta tested?
Yeah, EOP Assist was beta tested. We had multiple rounds of testing, which the first round we called an alpha test. The second round we called the beta test. This testing involved input from subject matter experts and practitioners in school emergency management from across the U.S. as well as the input of federal partners from a number of different federal agencies. So the development process took, let's see, I would say like 6 to 9 months off the top of my head. I'd have to look at my calendar to say exactly when we began, but we consulted basically with a number of people to develop this tool. The insights of many practitioners are have been incorporated into this final tool.
Thank you. You also mentioned a customizable interactive workbook. How is a copy of that workbook available to the field?
So as I mentioned, the workbook comes in 2 parts. Part A, which is the PDF, and Part B, which is the Word document, which is like the worksheets that ultimately become the plan. Part A, the PDF, is available as a customized version. We request that anyone who's interested in customizing this would reach out to us at info@rems.org. I'm sorry, info@remstacenter.org. And then we'd be happy to provide this, this PDF as a Microsoft Word document.
For our school and district representatives on the line, how will they know if their state-level organization will host EOP Assist?
That's a great question. I would recommend that for school and district practitioners who are on the line who are interested in having their state host the application, that they reach out to their respective state educational agencies and express that. And we are happy to help facilitate a discussion about that as well.
So Samantha, are there any marketing materials to share this information with districts? And if so, when will that updated product description flyer be available?
Yeah, so the information dissemination resources that we have are the product description, the flyer. We're in the process of updating it now, and it should be ready by early next week on the website. We also have the PowerPoint presentation, which it's still, it provides a general overview of EOP Assist. The screenshots included in the PowerPoint, as well as the description of the features and functions, are still with the original version of EOP Assist that was released. I would say that is still applicable, but we will update that at some point as well. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in using that to check back the website, and also just send us an email at info@remstacenter.org, and we can be in touch.
Great, thank you for that. This next question pertains to access to EOP Assist. How many administrators at the state level do you recommend accessing the tool?
Good question. We actually recommend that there are multiple people at each sort of administrative level who have access to EOP Assist. So I'll go through each of those particular administrative roles. So for the super administrator, remember that's the IT personnel. There's just one super administrator account for each account of EOP Assist. I'm sorry, there's one super administrator role for each account of EOP Assist. But we do recommend that there are 3 IT practitioners who have that like login information, so the username and password for the super administrator role. This helps to make sure that if there's any issues that occur, let's say one of those IT professionals, is not around and there's an issue, that there are other people who can access the application. Similarly, for state administrators, we recommend that 3 different people at a state agency have the state administrative user role. And then same with district and school administrators, we recommend 3 people for each of those roles for each institution. And then for user roles, there can really be as many as needed.
Thank you, Samantha. Can individual users download EOP Assist, for example, if they were going to work on it off-site?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So basically, so EOP Assist has to be downloaded and installed on a local server, but then it is made accessible via the internet for any number of users who want to use a particular account of the application. So let's say, for example, I work at a school district. My school district is hosting the application, so they've downloaded and installed it on the school district level server, and then they've made the tool as web accessible. And so all I need, if I'm off-site, I can be anywhere. All I need is whatever the web address is that they create for it, as well as the login information. And then I can access the tool as I would any other website, really.
And do we know how many schools or districts are currently using EOP Assist?
We know how many people have registered to download it. That's about 400 practitioners have registered to download it. Once you register and download the application, we don't know if you're using it or not. At that point, that it's completely on you. But yeah, so we do know that there are 400 people who have registered to download it.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions today? As a reminder, please pose your questions using the Q&A tool, which is located on the right side of your computer screen. Well, thank you again, Samantha, and thank you to all for participating in this webinar today. For those questions we were unable to address, a TA Center representative will reach out to you via email in order to provide a response to your inquiry. The resources on the REMS TA Center website support the development of comprehensive school EOPs. We do invite you to visit our website at rems.ed.gov to view or share the archived webinar, access the guides, and find resources pertaining to the planning process. You can also go there to access additional resources, publications, and trainings to help you in your emergency operations planning efforts for K-12 schools. For example, our toolbox contains sample practices, tools, and other items developed by emergency managers and pertinent to the needs of K-12 schools as they engage in the process of emergency management planning. Archived access to past webinars, including those providing an overview of the guides, and those on special topics such as implementing psychological first aid, integrating cybersecurity into school EOPs, and designing safe schools are also available on the website. The archive presentation for today's webinar will be available in the webinar section in approximately 7 to 10 business days. Thank you again for joining us today. This concludes our webinar.